Hey everyone, and welcome to A Question to the Teacher. But before we get started, here's a mama joke for you. Your mama's so stupid, she stared at a juice box because it said concentrate. Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to explain to you how to play Stare. Stare is an awesome board game that I've modified for use in my English language classroom. Here's how it works. Stare is a board game that can test and train students' visual memory skills while they have a blast playing it. Basically, students have 30 seconds to stare at an image on a card. Now, images in the game are varied, and they're fun for kids. It might be a movie poster, a funny photo, a comic, a work of art, or something like that. In my classroom, we use pictures from our curriculum. When time is up, an opponent will flip over the card and ask the player a series of questions about the image to see how much they can recall. The player being asked the question rolls the die to see which question they'll be asked first. If they roll a 5, they'll be asked question number 5. Once they give their answer, the player holding the card decides if they are right by looking at the image. They are the judge. If you get the question right, you move ahead 5 spaces on the board. Now roll again to get your next question from the same card. If you roll a 3, you'll be asked question 3. If you get it right, you move ahead 3 spaces. Every time you get a question right, move ahead and then roll again for your next question. The player's turn continues until they either get a question wrong or until they roll the same number twice, because you cannot answer the same question twice. In either case, the turn would be up and play would pass to the next player. Gameplay continues on like this, and the first player to reach the finish circle is the winner of the game. Now, a standard Stare board has about 72 spaces, because you want to make sure that this game gives everybody a fair chance to win. But really, it's up to you. This is the standard gameplay, but it can very easily be modified to fit the needs of your classroom. The standard Stare and Stare Junior cards are fantastic. The pictures are great, and the questions are even better. But for me, I like to use pictures that support what my students are learning. So I use Brain Pop Junior, and Brain Pop ELL pictures to make my gameplay cards. And here's what my game cards look like. What separates a good game of Stare from a great one is the quality of the pictures you use for your question cards. Take a picture like this, for example. This is a great example picture because it has so much going on. The card may look busy, but that's a good thing. In Stare, you want to find pictures that are vibrant, full of color, full of action, and that have a lot going on. One of the most fun parts of Stare is that it really tests your memory. Pictures like this are great to use to make Stare cards because the detail really requires that you look very carefully, that you use your memory to the best of your ability. Cards like this turn a good game of Stare into a great one. In addition, pictures like these that have a lot of detail make it easy to create questions. If you look at this picture, you could easily come up with those who, what, where, when, why, how, which questions based on all the small details in the picture. This picture is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This picture is not only worth 1,000 words, it's worth 1,000 questions. Take a look. What kind of questions would you ask? What kind of prompts would you use? What would you focus on? What would you want to highlight for your students? Those are the types of things you need to focus on when you make your questions. Let's look at my example. On the reverse side of the card, there are 6 questions, each with a corresponding number from the die. Now, my cards go from easy to medium to hard. The questions progress in difficulty from the lowest number to the highest. And I use all sorts of different questions. Variety is the key to this game. You want to make sure that you're utilizing all of the target language, all of the vocabulary, and all of the prompts available to you. Now you might be looking at that question card and say to yourself, Brian, what about students who can't read? Now, for students whose reading skills have not yet been fully developed, they can still play along. When it is their turn to ask questions to other kids, instead of reading questions on the back of the card, they'll study the image and make up their own questions about the image to ask the other player. And finally, here's a sample round of what it looks like in a classroom. As you can see, even though this game is competitive, students act in a cooperative manner because it makes the game more fun. Everybody gets involved, everybody participates, and even if they lose, students end up having a good time. Time's up. Okay, flip it. 6.
How many other people are there?
There's
Except
Moby
for
and Tim.
Moby and Tim?
Yes, how many different people? Perfect. Wow, she has a great memory.
몇 명 있었다는데? 4명이야?
Rachel, 4.
What color is the statue?
It's the angel like this.
골.
Yes, perfect. Wow.
검색, 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 검색.
It's a gold statue.
3, 4야. 따라합니다.
했죠.
2.
했죠. What is Moby wearing? 아,
뭔데? 말해주면 어떡해.
잠깐만. 아,
Should I give a hint? A little help? It's on his neck.
잠깐만. Red.
그 영어 물어봐야지. 나도 또 영어 까먹었어.
5 seconds.
No, I didn't. Neck.
Scarf.
맞아, scarf.
Scarf and a hat.
이제 넘겨?
Yeah, switch it.
뭐야?
New code. Lastly, if you want to play, just remember these 3 simple steps. 1. Stare at the image. 2. Answer the questions. And 3. Move ahead if you're right. And even though this is one of the easiest games that I've ever played, it's also one of the most fun. And I'm sure you're going to like it. So please, give it a try and let me know how it goes.